point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey and Tom Fennell. I'm George. This is Tom.
I'm Tom.
And with us we have Steve Goldsmith and Patty Kenyon and Melissa
Chestnut Tangerman.
Chestnut Tangerman.
Mm-hmm.
That almost sounds like a nut and a fruit.
People have done chestnut tangerine. It's been done.
Okay, who are the head people from SolarFest? And it's a real thrill to have them here. And I want to tell you, I have been to SolarFest a couple of times, probably less often than I would like, but it is a fascinating event that takes place out in a meadow, and is something to talk about all year. And different people go there for different reasons. I found that I went there because I wanted to see things at workshops. And as much as I think that music is probably more important than most other pleasurable things in life, it is a reason to go by itself, and people do that. But I went to see workshops and got myself waylaid because there were just so many good vendors to talk to and get ideas from and find out what they were doing and make connections with. I occasionally found myself not getting to the workshops that I intended to go to. And here, Steve, could I have that list? It's amazing to me what's in this list of workshops. All of these things that I've come to. My gosh, you've got a solar car race?
We do. Over the weekend, kids are going to be building their own solar cars, and then on Sunday afternoon, they're going to race them.
They're going to build the cars over the weekend.
Over Saturday, Sunday.
So they come with a bunch of pieces that they put together?
We supply most of the pieces.
Oh my gosh.
They come with the ideas, and we have people who volunteer to help them out, and the final race is a hoot. I mean, it's really, really exciting to watch.
Imagine that. Solar tour. I started out with growing rice in Vermont. I would love to do growing rice in Vermont. Community solar farms. I think many people, a very large part of the population of Vermont would benefit from that. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of people don't even know about it. We've been writing about it in Green Energy Times for issue after issue, and people should learn about this because it's so much cheaper than buying grid power.
Yeah.
UN climate negotiations, very important.
And that one is interesting. That's a workshop from the folks over at 350.org, and they're running their second annual climate camp during SolarFest this year. So they have members and activists from all over the Northeast that are converging
on SolarFest.
On SolarFest during the weekend.
Wow.
And we've set aside an area where they can hang out, but it's open to the public. Anybody who wants to learn about their activities or what they're working on can come and hang out with them. And it was great last year.
Yeah. Tiny house building. I love this. And what that puts in me in mind of is a conversation I had with a contractor in New Hampshire, which is not tiny houses, but it's houses. And we were talking about passive house. Mm-hmm. And for people who don't know, a passive house is a house that is sufficiently well insulated and has their ventilation system sufficiently well built that it's comfortable to live in without any heat input. So you're depending upon the body heat of the people, the dog, the cooking heat, the whatever, the appliances that you might be using because of heat. And he said to me that you can get 90% of the way to a passive house, meaning that you would cut 90% of your power, at the same price as a conventional house if you know how to do it. Mm-hmm. Because you don't have to buy and install heat plants.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And building your own hydraulic water pumps, very cool. Solar roofing best practices, good thing for people to know about. Building an electric motorcycle.
It is.
That's going to be a fun workshop.
Yeah.
That's a couple of hours long, and there's going to be a motorcycle frame there and parts, and people are going to roll up their sleeves and build a motorcycle.
This is hands-on stuff.
It is
in other words,
hands-on
yes.
stuff.
This is
I
not.
could see a new app for that motorcycle, though. Harley noise.
I think somebody just patented it.
Harley is making an electric motorcycle.
Yeah,
It
they
sound
are.
like
Yeah, they
Harleys?
are.
They say the electric motor in that electric Harley sounds like a Harley.
You know,
They say.
Nancy Ray Mallory, who is the editor in Green Energy Times, owns 2 Harleys, which she drives. And she says, you know, these are green. They get 70 miles per gallon. Yeah.
I know Nancy well enough not to argue with anything she says.
Oh, man. Solar car race. Site tour.
So the site tour, we generate all of the electricity that we use to run the festival on site.
Which means that the site tour is just a tour of all kinds of different
all
ways.
of our power plants, our hot water, our electric, our main array, our auxiliary arrays up at box office, a wind turbine.
And that's one of the most popular tours. I mean, you see this huge crowd of people going all together throughout the festival. So
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
And it's a great opportunity to see up close all the components.
And by the way, I have to break into this just for a second. There's lots of good food.
This is absolutely fantastic.
All those people, you know, are, yeah. The solar tour sounds like it could be one of the best things going.
It is. Yeah.
You know, you have to get past the names of some of these things. This is not a guided tour to an empty tomb in the pyramids. This is
hands-on, interactive.
cool.
learning.
Right. Learning.
Intro to solar electric. Intro to making with
Arduino. So we are doing.
This I'm lost on.
We're doing a mini maker fair again this year. We started it last year, and it's a mini maker fair is a celebration of innovation and creativity. And we've got a lot of New England makers coming out to show off the projects that they've created. And those projects range from LED lighting to build a solar oven to some
3D
arts projects,
printing?
3D printing. We have an organization coming down from Burlington. They're going to be using Ben & Jerry's ice cream spoons, recycling them and printing cows with 3D printers. And so the maker movement and the renewables community have a lot in common because we make our own electricity.
Yeah.
And the makers make a lot of things, from arts and crafts and textiles to technology. Arduinos are a couple-year-old enabler of the maker movement. It's a single-board microcontroller. It's about yay big. It's got, depending on which model you get, 64 input-output ports, and you can use it to program electronics. You can use it for lighting projects. You can use it for robotics projects. You can use it for environmental sensors. I built one that's in my greenhouse that tells me when it's hot or cold, and it graphs the temperature.
How much do these things cost?
$20.
Amazing.
And for $35, you can get one that has an embedded Linux controller and Wi-Fi on it.
Oh my
They
gosh.
are truly enabling technology for
The DIY.
For the DIY community.
Where do you get them?
You can get them at yourduino.com is one of the vendors that's going to be at the festival this year.
Cool.
Spell that
And
word.
YOURDUINO.com, or you can go to sparkfun.com. Sparkfun came out last year. They are they're the Heathkit of our generation.
Oh,
You know,
cool.
of the current generation. So when we were young, you could buy anything from Heathkit Electronics.
Yes.
SparkFun, Yourduino,
Yes.
Adafruit.com.
Yes.
They are the modern day Heathkits.
Very neat.
And the things you can do with these are truly amazing.
How much memory does an Arduino typically
Not a
have?
lot. There are some models that have more, but the base models are really, really small. There's 69, 70 some odd more workshops that aren't on that list. We have
Well, I've only done about
7,
10.
I think, this year.
I haven't even done half of the list that's in front of me. Making green sexy. I have known people who, if you painted them green, would still be sexy.
That's a fantastic marketing workshop by Shell.
Solar powering your electric vehicle. I want to do that. Designing solar electric systems, energy use on small farms, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Fermentation,
We've got several fermentation.
Three
works.
fermentation.
3 workshops, mead, Sandor Katz, fermentation on wheels.
And if you know anything about fermentation, you will know that Sandor Katz is, the guru. And
Yeah,
so
and this
he's-
is not just making alcoholic beverages, but
Not at
also
all.
making
This is-
making pickles, making
It's reclaiming the forgotten art of fermentation and the lacto
which is
fermentation,
huge.
which
And,
is so good for
you know,
us.
one of the things that I find interesting about you think about fermented cucumbers, just fermented cucumbers. That's called a pickle.
Yeah.
You buy a pickle that is made by Heinz, and it's going to have minerals, and it's going to have precious little else that is of any value to your body.
And lots of salt and lots
And
of...
lots of salt and things that your body might not like. But you know, if you buy a pickle which is fermented and still live, and by that I mean it's full of the microbes that have done this, you're buying something which in some ways is very much more nutritious than the cucumber it came from. And that's an important art. And people, in the old days, they used to do it in their homes.
Right.
And there's no reason why they can't still do it in
It's
their
just
homes.
fear, and that's one of the things
Fear.
that Sandor Katz has been successful at and why he has such a following, and he is one of our keynote speakers. He'll be speaking to everybody on Sunday.
Amazing.
He's reminding people to just not be afraid. This is something that's kind of our birthright, is to know how to ferment.
Freedom and Unity, the Vermont Movie Series Children. Is this the series organization in Boston?
Can you speak to that?
So they're Vermont filmmakers, and they have a six or eight part film series, and they're coming to SolarFest to show 2 different series. One is about agriculture, and the other one is about energy.
Okay.
And it's a cultural kind of look back at Vermonters and Vermont life.
Okay.
So I think Ceres children in this is referring to the goddess.
The goddess.
Yeah, so.
Are you familiar with the Ceres organization in
No.
Boston? Ceres is an organization that has been
I am,
operating almost under the
Nancy.
radar. I mean, a lot of people have never heard of it, but they were the ones who went to Google and said, don't you think you ought to be able to do things a little bit more sustainably, and maybe it would save you money?
Really?
Yeah, and they went to GM and did the same thing. And they went to other organizations and they put together a workshop or a conference in Washington, D.C. last January that took place at the UN, and it consisted of 500 representatives from 700 financial organizations who sent letters to 48 fossil fuel companies demanding to know how they were going to survive in a world of global warming. And they had behind them $12 trillion worth of investment. And this is just something which is
It's
mind-boggling.
amazing, yeah.
General Motors, under the influence of Ceres, has signed, along with Unilever and EDF and who was the other one, Tom? Do you remember? Ceres, Unilever, EDF,
I don't
General
remember who the
Motors,
other one was.
Shell. They sent out letters to 60 governments worldwide saying that we need to have a cap on carbon emissions. General Motors, Shell Oil. This is a big deal.
That's,
Solar thermal. Maybe I should just pass this back to you, and you can.
I get my
I'm
list.
taking up all your time. It's so fascinating to me, though, and it's.
And that's one of the interesting things. When you go to the website and you look at the content that we've got there and the list of workshops, it's really hard for people to plan their days. And
Oh, it's
because-
impossible. It
is.
I've
but don't
been
be
there.
deterred by that.
No, don't be
right?
deterred by it.
Yes.
And there is something for everybody there. I mean, this is just, some number of 87 workshops that we're offering this year. Well, we've got workshops for kids. We've got workshops on sustainability, on sustainable agriculture, on climate change, on thriving communities. I'm missing 2.
You
Green
said
transportation and green building.
Yeah, green building.
Green building.
No,
Green
mo-
transportation is a new one we're offering this year. We're really excited about that. A lot of electric vehicles and a lot of hybrid technology. We've got a workshop on how to recondition your hybrid car batteries. Because apparently, after a decade or so, they start wearing down.
And they're expensive to replace.
And they're expensive, but we've got somebody doing a workshop on how you can recondition them yourself.
You know, one of the things that I found interesting when I don't have a car now, but I used to have a Prius, and the battery in that Prius was made up of cells that could be removed and replaced.
Yep.
And when one cell goes bad, it can make the whole battery go bad. But if you can identify that cell. Now, if I could interject here, I want to make a suggestion to anybody who might go to SolarFest that they take a notebook. Everybody who goes to SolarFest should take a notebook, and nobody should go alone.
Bring a friend. Absolutely.
Not just a friend. What you should do is bring at least 5 friends, because everybody can go to different
Yes.
workshops, and they
And
can
pool your
they can
resources.
pool the resources if you just make sure that there are 5 people who take notes well.
That's a great idea. I love
And
it.
each of those 5 friends should bring 5 friends too.
Because there's somebody's got to watch the music.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
You-
it doesn't have to be a notebook either, because this year the site has Wi-Fi capability throughout, and so if you're that digital person, you can
Bring your
you
iThing
can
or your,
your
laptop,
thing.
you have a
Yes.
charging station, a solar device charging station where you can plug in your iThing or your laptop.
How many people can your Wi-Fi support at a time?
We'll find out. We actually have the folks over at Vermont Telephone. We have 3 1 gigabit fiber drops, and we've got Wi-Fi distribution. But I'm going to defer an answer on your question as to how many simultaneous users we can support until after the festival.
Well, that's okay.
And then I'll get back to you.
Yeah, we can talk about that next year, hopefully. But the point is, this is you know, when I said I thought this was one of the best events in Vermont, it's more than that. Who was it who said that it was a turning point in the
It was
Bill McKibben.
Bill McKibben.
Bill McKibben, but also, Ben
Ben
Cohen
from
last
Ben
year,
Cohen said the same.
attributed the rise of the solar industry, and awareness, in part, to what we've been doing at
to
SolarFest for 20 years.
Now you see,
Yeah.
this is important because 20 years ago, solar power was expensive,
Yeah.
and most people thought of it as something that it went into space because you needed to have something, and it didn't matter what it cost. But you proved 20 years ago that it could be used by real people in the real world doing ordinary things such as making music.
Right.
And I think that was a turning point. It was something, solar power, I was aware of solar power when I was in college, which again was a long time ago. But it was, again, something that was a very different thing. And now what we're finding is that ordinary people can not only can afford it, but it's cheaper than anything else.
Right.
It's truly
Right.
amazing. how
And it's
far
all
it's
because of you guys.
And
So if you to the people who are watching, if you don't like solar farms, if you think they're ugly,
Yeah.
blame them.
Blame us. We have broad shoulders.
just to point out how visionary. 20 years ago, a very small group of people started SolarFest, and the idea was to show people that solar power was real, that it was viable, that it was something that could be done. But at the
Even in
time-
Vermont.
Even in Vermont.
Right.
But at the time, people who had solar were few and far between.
Right.
Not many people had ever seen a solar panel. And the folks that were deploying at the time were largely off-grid. But they had this vision to do a concert, to get people to come out and see it in use, to see it in action, and say, you know what, if it could power stage lights, if it could power sound, it could power your house. And
Sure.
it was a revolutionary concept at the time 20 years ago. And I wish I could say I was one of those revolutionary smart people. I wasn't. Melissa was. And but it really, and what Bill McKibben said was, long before nations got a large percentage of their power from solar, long before there were grid tie systems, long before solar was so widely deployed, there was SolarFest. And it was truly one of the first in the Northeast and in the country to make solar approachable to regular people, to come out and see and learn about it and experience it. And it's grown so much in the past 20 years.
Oh, enormously.
But the mission has always been to educate. I mean, to entertain, yes, but to educate, and about so much more than solar, because of course nothing is ever just one thing, and we're all interconnected in so many ways. So
and one of the things that I think is really impressive to me is how we are, from the first SolarFest to the SolarFest that'll happen this summer at Tinmouth, it is 99% run by volunteers. And it can't happen unless people decide they're willing to spend some of their time and energy to make it happen. There's not a bunch of money behind us that
Not
we can
at all.
just, write the check and have this one come over and we're paying this one and paying that one. It is all, sweat equity, grassroots efforts, and people really dedicating their time, their lives, big portions of their lives, not just, 9 hours of our standard volunteer requirement, big portions of their lives to make this happen every year. And, and every year there's those same people, which is doubly amazing to me, are willing to increase the effort, increase the, grow the festival at the expense of more of their own time and resources and all of those things. And so I think that that's something that personally I'm really proud of. I'm proud of the people involved, and I think to come out to the farm, if you can come to the farm before SolarFest starts to take over and see what's there, and then come to the farm the day of SolarFest and get that site tour and look around at all the water stations and all the things that are built in 2 weeks on a horse farm in the middle of nowhere. It's just mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
And it's a lot of volunteers. It's close to 300 volunteers.
This is one of the reasons why solar and wind and other things of that nature are succeeding. And if you think about this in terms of the market, it means that you've got a large group of people who are going to say to the market, I'm going to do this whether you pay me or not. And then on the counter to that are the people who want them not to succeed, who are saying, I'm going to do what I do, and I want as much money as I can get for it. And who is going to succeed when you've got those two sides against each other? It's going to be the people who are, my work is volunteer, because that's bad competition for anybody.
Right. Yeah, and I have stayed involved because I still have this image that, what we do when we put together SolarFest is we're creating community and modeling for the community that we're going to need to create on larger and larger scales in our future.
I think that's a really important point, because what we have had in the past in terms of our electric infrastructure, in terms of our transportation infrastructure, has been something which divides communities in a sense, because it means that the connection that a person has is not with a community. The connection that the person has is with some nameless organization, almost nameless some organization that you can't put a face on. And what happens with distributed power is that it means that communities can undertake their own. They can take control of their own futures.
Right.
And this, I think, is becoming the wave of the future. That's what I'm kind of...
In so many ways, it's power to the people,
That's
for
right.
the people,
Yes.
and by the people.
That's right. It's a very interesting point of view.
And it's an interesting experience being at SolarFest, too, because you go to a workshop largely maybe with your 5 friends, but you're in a tent with people you may not know. At the end of the workshop, all these people are talking with each other about ideas that they've got, and it. One of the things that I think SolarFest does very, very well is build and sustain a community. And
I'm going to ask Tom to put your website up, and we can continue talking about what you're talking about. I just want people to realize that this website is there. And what is the website?
SolarFest.org.
So it's
Very
pretty
easy.
easy to get to.
It is.
And SolarFest, of course, is one word. You don't have to
Yes.
worry about capitalization.
That's our main array from a couple of years ago, and every year we build a new array to power the festival, and we run the festival energy neutral, which is amazing considering the amount of production that we've got. We've got 4 or 5 projectors in workshop tents. We've got main stage sound and lighting that is just second to none. I mean, outstanding quality. But we run the festival energy neutral, and this year the main array is going to look similar to that. We've got, I wrote it down and then lost where, 32, I think 300 watt panels this year on our main array. That feeds 4 charge controllers with 96 L16 batteries. And the reason we've got battery storage there is we don't have stage lighting during the day when we've got solar. So we do our own solar energy storage during the day so we can power the festival at night, because the electrical service to the farm actually is too small to handle the load.
So
that
you
the
are
stage
grid
puts on it
tied.
at night.
We
do
are
have-
grid tied.
this
But
is a
you
grid
can't
tied
get
system.
enough to run the system. It would not run without the.
We could upgrade it, but the
Yeah.
existing service entrance to the farm couldn't handle our nighttime load. So we bring in 96 batteries and we charge, the panels actually went in a month ago. And we start charging up and spinning the meter backwards, so when we hit it for 3 days during the festival, at the end of the festival, the meter still shows 0.
Okay. And Tom, I have to ask you, what are you up to here? I see a different picture on the screen.
That's a slider.
It's slides.
Sliding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not
That's
doing it.
our,
okay.
But
that's
it does
our
have some nice pictures.
historic backdrop of our main stage. So one of the things that being a nonprofit and as small a budget as we have, our entertainment budget is laughable. Like literally, people laugh at us, when we offer what we do. So that makes us be very creative in terms of booking. And so over the years, we've been able to find really interesting acts. And one of them, Break of Reality, is heavy metal cello.
They are amazing.
They are, you wouldn't believe it, but it's incredible. They're 5, I think, grads from
All
from
playing cello?
Rochester. Well, no, they have percussion. They've got some in percussion.
Cello and percussion.
And percussion. But you would, I mean, that's just, these, young people were into heavy metal music, and so, but they're classically trained musicians.
And they just did a cover of the Game of Thrones song.
Oh, they did.
The
Oh,
theme song.
fantastic.
Fantastic.
So we booked them. They've been, this will be their 3rd appearance, I think. So they first came in the mid-aughts, and they were first in line when they heard, for our 20th, they wanted to be
wow.
booked. And so we have several
How many,
repeat acts
how many
like
cellos
that.
are there? Are there 4
There are
cellos
4.
and drums?
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That is
They are
amazing.
Over the 16 years, this will be our 16th year of my family going. Our favorite bands now, if you look at the list of our top 5 favorite bands,
Yeah.
all 5 of them are bands that we were introduced to at SolarFest.
Really?
We've had some amazing bands that we never heard of, that we probably never would have gone to see if we saw the description of them, but they just floored us. And Break of Reality is one of them, and Train is another. Caravan of Thieves, who's not joining us this year, is a band that we discovered at SolarFest. And the amount of the eclectic mix of music we've been able to attract over the years is really, really fascinating.
So we also have a contra dance that takes place Saturday
What
night because
fun.
it is fun. That's a hugely popular thing, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
We have something that is completely unique to SolarFest. Children's book author Frank Ash, who happens to live in Middletown Springs, writes for us almost every year a new original play, Theater in the Woods. It's aimed at kids generally, but
Yeah.
there's levels of
Yes.
characters and humor.
Yeah.
And so that's also hugely popular. That will have audiences on a
Now, are these his plays, are they all energy oriented?
no, but they will often have there'll be references
Okay.
within. But generally he'll take a fairy tale and remember the fractured fairy tales?
Yes, of course,
So
yeah.
he'll turn them on their sides and stick new things in them, and it's a wonderful, again, community experience. We just have local actors doing it, and
Neat.
And it's
Yeah.
named Theater in the Woods because it's performed in the woods.
Yeah.
There's
Yes.
usually 4 or 5 separate acts, and the audience moves through the woods with the performers.
Following
taking
the
each of
actors,
acts.
yeah.
A kind of a processional theater.
Yes, and it's a
Okay.
lot of fun.
and there can be upwards of 400 people at each performance, which is amazing.
That must be something to see, 400
It really
people
is.
going
It's an
through the woods.
experience.
It
It's,
really is.
it's one of the favorites of people who come year after year. They're like, oh, I can do anything at any time, but I have to be free for at least one Theater in the Woods performance.
And it's
really
a
hard
favorite
to
of the
schedule around.
volunteers too. And what you'll find all the performances. It's done a couple of times over the weekend. You'll see all of us who are working all weekend long with radios on, holding our hands over the microphones so that we can't hear the radio traffic, standing in the back watching and laughing, because they're really great plays that we don't want to miss either.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
I want to mention one more thing that doesn't necessarily come up on the
Yeah.
menu, is the singer-songwriter competition showcase
Okay.
that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, there are 10 finalists who compete, and there's
Mm-hmm.
a panel of judges, and that's something that occurs at a lot of folk
Mm-hmm.
festivals and stuff around the country, and something that we instituted, I don't know, 15 years
I
ago,
think
maybe.
it must be 15,
I think
but we
so,
stopped
yeah.
keeping track somewhere.
Right.
Now the number is gone.
Right.
Now,
But
I think people hearing this can understand that this is really big.
It is
event.
big. It is a big
It's a
event.
very big event.
And what's amazing is that our ticket prices, we have always, it's been a value. Why we still don't have the budget for the entertainment, right, is because we really believe in keeping it accessible. And so we had a real wrangle about, the ticket price for this weekend, because it feels so huge to those of us in the driver's seat, but it's still half or less than half of what a comparable festival, a music dedicated
But you know what
festival.
you're doing by doing that is you're making it accessible to music groups that would not otherwise be brought before the public.
That's true, too.
Because you're giving them a venue.
Yep.
And that, I think, is really an important thing. It's a very, very interesting thing to hear about. I mean, so many musicians would play for free if they could just find a place to play.
Yes, yes.
And it's a volunteer-run organization, so we couldn't do this without the 300 volunteers, but we also couldn't do this without the folks leading the workshops. So of those 87 workshops, 99 or 110 some odd people are donating their time to come out and do a workshop and share their skills and experience and expertise with the community. And the quality of the workshops are truly amazing.
Yes, I've been exposed to that myself. It's
Yeah.
really
And you could go to
astonishing.
a conference where you could pay $300 a day
Right.
to sit in a hotel and listen to 2 workshops. And I'm sure they're great, but price of admission at SolarFest for the weekend gets you camping, gets you top-notch entertainment and great sound and lights. I mean, I would go just to watch the light show. And 87 workshops, hands-on workshops, experiential learning.
Exposure to some of the most interesting people you'll ever find.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the ability to walk up to anybody and have a technical talk about how their renewable energy system at home works, or what car they drive. I mean, it's one of the best groupings of people, and it's why we go every year, because the people are great. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot to learn. And last year, I even got to spend some time in some workshops.
The workshop presenters are definitely huge, and every year we get new things. We put out a call. We just have a form on our website that says propose a workshop. We want to get great workshops, and they just come in. And so, like the people from the movie, the Vermont series movie, they just proposed a workshop, and we said, that sounds cool, let's do that. And so they have ideas that they want to put out in the public, and they have, whether it's new cutting edge ideas, whether it's old technology and old reskilling, as they call it. People want other people to know that these things can happen, and we can.
Right.
There's other ways to live our lives beyond Walmart.
Beyond Walmart. The old technology, I think about biochar. I went to a biochar workshop, and that's old technology.
Yes, it
that's
is.
a technology, if you think about it, that's older than the pyramids.
Came before the wheel, I think.
Oh yes, long before the wheel. I mean, the wheel is relatively new by comparison. This is stuff that, and people should know about biochar, because it's one. I think it's one of the things that's going to bring us out of climate change and global warming. Is going to be an important one. And as a matter of fact, the UN climate report, they actually made reference to this, specific reference, where they said this is going to account for X percent, I think it was 10% or whatever, of the reduction of carbon that is going to bring us out of the global warming period. Because it means, on the one hand, that you can sequester carbon, But on the other hand, you don't need to use carbon for the manufacture of fertilizer and so forth. And this is, most people don't know about it. It is a soil amendment that constitutes a permanent solution to fertility, so that you mix it in with the field, soil. The pores of the biochar have microbes growing in them. The microbes fix nitrogen. It's like planting a field of peas that's always there, or peanuts, or whatever, clover, that is always there, always producing nitrogen for the soil, always making that soil more fertile. And once that's done, you don't need to use chemicals.
So it's not the biochar that's doing the job.
It's the
the bugs that live within it.
Yeah.
That's right. The biochar is
Yeah.
just providing those things. You're putting out little houses for little creatures. And
What is it? Doesn't that make sense?
yes, indeed. And it's something that I had heard about before I went to SolarFest. But in fact, I learned a lot about it there. And this is technology that was developed about 7,000 years ago in the Amazon, and the fields that the people living in that area put their biochar into are still to this day fertile.
Wow.
Yeah, in an area which is otherwise lacking in fertility. And so fertile, in fact, that if you go into the jungle and you find one of these fields, and you're a person who does this sort of thing, you would scoop up the soil and take it to market to sell it.
Wow.
It's amazing. One of the other partnerships that we have is with the Rich Earth Institute, who you people in Brattleboro might know about, because they're from Brattleboro.
I know the Richards family, but I don't know
Rich
about their...
Earth Institute.
Oh,
Rich
Rich
Earth,
Earth.
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I heard
Yes.
you wrong.
Yeah, so they are doing urine collection at SolarFest.
I've actually donated.
Okay.
I knew you would know. I had a feeling you would know. And so we're going to be part of their big study, you
Yeah.
know, and it's
It's exciting.
great, exciting
Yeah.
thing to do, and I think that lots of people are going to be really happy about porta potties
Absolutely.
that are just urine.
And they're just for the business of doing this research.
Right.
And the research, I think, is very important research ultimately, because there's a whole endeavor that's going on called pee-ponics. Are you familiar with that?
No.
It's in your own home, collecting the urine and.
Oh, is that
and-
what it's called?
Yeah.
I do it.
It's called pee-ponics, and it's like aquaponics, except that in aquaponics the urine is provided by fish,
Right.
and you don't see it. But in pee-ponics you're providing your own, and if you're a healthy person, or even just tolerably healthy, your urine is basically sterile, and meaning that there's very little biological activity going into it. And like making pickles, fermentation, it starts from there, and you can use it in a cycling system to make, and by that I mean you go from the urine to ammonia, nitrates, to fix the nitrogen for the soil. And of course, by the time it gets to the soil, it doesn't even remember the fact that it was
Right.
once
Right.
in your system.
Right. And neither do we.
That's right.
So yeah, we're excited about that. That's a fascinating thing. And they're the first people in the United States to do this study.
Yeah, so
By
if you go to
golly.
our website, you can find out all about and plan your weekend, because there's a lot going on. We have, I think, Saturday morning, 11 workshops going on at the same time. But you can learn about...
I think that's absolutely dreadful.
It
It should be spread out over a week.
well, really,
could be.
I'm one of those people who I feel, what's it called? When you're envious that you've made the wrong choice. Anyway, we have a name for it in my family, but I'm spacing on it. But there's just too many choices, and
Yes.
so I'm always feeling like left out.
I have
fear
done
of missing
that.
out. That's it. FOMO.
I've
fear of
done that
missing
at
out.
SolarFest, where I've wanted to be at 3 different workshops, decided on one of them, and never made it to it
Yes,
because I
'cause
wound up
you
talking
were-
to vendors.
Or
because
eating.
you've got such, well, eating I can pass up on, or I can take a hot dog with me. But you've got such interesting vendors there, just fascinating to sit there and talk with.
Yeah.
We do, and some really knowledgeable vendors who have been at this in the renewable industry since the early days. We've got some manufacturers coming out this year to talk about their new product.
Dave Bonta was
Yes.
on our
Yeah.
show.
Dave Bond
Yeah.
will be there. And
He was on our show with Carol Levin, and that was just fun.
it was I
He
think we all
he
watched
came
that.
to he
That
came to
was great.
SolarFest the year that he started USA Solar's.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
like we were like his first venture out, as a
Really?
vendor. Yes.
Oh, isn't that fun?
And he was so. I mean, he's been a participant and supporter ever since because
Yeah, of course.
he's been so tickled.
He's more interested in saving the world than he is in making money. I think.
Yeah, well, that's what we need is
Yeah.
those people
That's right.
Carol's been involved with SolarFest
since the beginning.
forever.
Carol and Richard were the
Did you
very
know that
first
Richard
people.
installed the PVs on the first satellites to carry them into space?
Yes. Yeah.
This is, I mean,
I know.
we've got stuff going on. This is a guy, I'm so sad that he died. It's like, he was such a wonderful guy.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it's gratifying to have known such a person.
It is. And we really feel, he was on our board for a while. He really was one of the parents of SolarFest because he came to the very first one when we were, everything was nascent. We had, one solar installation and, everything was very small scale, right?
Sure.
And he really beefed that up. He delivered the very first workshop the next year when we started doing workshops. So-
Really?
And
Yep.
he did the pre-festival workshops for years.
At
He
the
taught
farm, yep.
Many people who entered the renewables field
Absolutely.
And
in
it-
New England did it through his classes.
And if you think about this, this is the kind of thing that a volunteer, Richard Gottlieb was a volunteer, I'm sure.
Yep.
And a volunteering time, talking with people one-on-one can have a profound influence on our society.
Mm-hmm.
It's really kind of, we're living in very interesting times.
We are.
So
We are. Yeah, and that's an old-fashioned way to deliver information, and here we are, we're so web-reliant and
I know.
network-reliant and all that stuff, and that's the thing
I have
about
no idea how many people
SolarFest.
are watching this
You're right.
broadcast or will, but I know it will go out on the internet, so you can actually,
You'll be able to link
get
to
the,
it.
you can link to
That'll
it
be great,
and
yeah.
and send it, send links to people, and I put links at my website, and there will be a link at Green Energy Times. And, you could put a link on your website. And,
Yes. And are you coming this year? Good.
Are you going?
I'm planning. I'm not sure
Are
when.
you going to go up? Are you going to go up for a day or for the
I
weekend?
don't think
or-
I'm going to be staying. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a car, and I'm kind of beyond camping and too poor to
Yeah.
take a hotel room. So
Well, we'll whip together
if you-
for one day.
I would love doing that.
There we go.
I'll ask Tori
We
if
can
she
do
wants
that.
to go with us, if you don't mind, because she
We can
doesn't
do
have a
that.
car either.
You'll need 2 more friends.
Yeah, to hit your 5.
Can I count?
Opposite
Can I
five.
count on 2 of the 3 of you?
You can certainly
We'll be there.
We'll be there, but we may not be able to walk around with you. But we can find you friends.
You don't want to really walk around with us.
Maybe you
don't
could
walk.
find me a friend.
No peace.
Maybe you could find me a friend who has learned how to be green and sexy.
Yeah,
Well,
you can.
We could, yeah, you could go to
You
that
could just
workshop.
go stand outside the workshop for after.
I could paint my hair green.
Made friends there. For our first year, our kids made friends, and every year we would see them.
Well, this is one of the things that I've always thought was great. You can sit down at one of those big tables where
Yeah.
you can eat, and you can sit down next to somebody or across from somebody and get into a conversation, and you know that that person is going to be interested in green technology or in music or in both, more likely than
Right.
either one or the other.
Right.
And it's easy to set up conversations because it's just very, very exciting. So, yeah, I guess I'm going if Tom's going.
Good.
Awesome.
Love to
Good.
see you.
And we're going to
We'll
go
look
up.
for you.
We're going to go up on donut grease.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, you'll get to park in
You
the
get
in the
preferred parking with
special
donut grease.
place.
Oh, wow.
And we have a couple of workshops on grease cars too.
Yeah.
I think they're doing grease
Todd's
car
doing
conversion.
one? Yes.
again this year.
I remember seeing them the last time I was there.
And that's right up at the bottom of the parking lot. And we have a special parking area for grease cars and electric cars and renewables. And
Wow.
so you could park in the donut parking area. And if you bring a regular car, they'll convert it to a grease car for you before you
When
leave.
you're not even looking.
When you're not even looking, they just go out, whatever's unlocked, they convert. It's a good workshop.
Well, I think this has been great.
This has been great. It's been a lot
Thank
of fun.
you
Thank you
so
for having
much.
us.
It's great to
Really-
be in the company of people who are so excited about
I know, it's really
SolarFest.
wonderful. We didn't have to sell you at all.
Well, I got sold by having gone there, which makes it very easy for me to tell people about it because I can say, if you haven't been there, then you just don't know what it's like. And as a person who loves the strolling of the heifers, it's just it's just
Great event.
we should have the heifer stroll go up to Tinmouth.
It would be so great.
We would welcome the crowd.
We may do the horse stroll.
Yeah.
The horses travel from the farm a mile down the road.
A mile down
or
there
more.
for the summer.
And so someone suggested, you really should videotape that whole process. Of
That's
the
a good
horses
idea.
Leaving.
Strolling,
Horse parade.
right.
So
The
that,
strolling of the stallions.
so
Yes.
you get that fact that yes, there were really horses here.
How many horses were there?
Oh, there's like 30 something right
There's a lot.
now.
Really?
It's a
Yeah.
working horse farm. It's
Wow.
full of horses right now. It is full of horses and
My gosh.
And poop.
and horse poo.
Yeah.
It's an amazing transformation because when you get there, the horses won't be there, and the
Horse
for the most
poop is
part,
all
won't be
gone.
needed.
Yeah.
But who does that? Is that done by volunteers? I mean,
is.
obviously it is, but
Yeah, you mean, picking
is it,
that, yep.
is it done by hand? Is it they-
Shovels? But yeah, it's not, there's not a machine that's going,
Yeah.
We have
Sucking it up.
people who volunteer their time to come out and shovel horse poo so that we can put on a festival. How cool is that?
That is one of the best quotes I've ever heard. Very good. Well, thank you, Roland.
thank you.
This has been great.